We are just about live. All right. Hello and welcome, Just Alive family. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about the mental health system. Not only are we going to be talking about the mental health system, we're going to be talking about how it impacts not only the people who have mental health issues, but also their families and caregivers, and a whole bunch of stereotypes and issues that we face. So that's what we're focusing on today. I am your host, Melissa Kretschler. I'm an identity coach and a spiritual teacher, and I created this beautiful, beautiful show to showcase and highlight passion topics that are going to help you create happier, healthier lives. Please, absolutely feel free to join the conversation, like and share, subscribe, get in on the action right here on the show. We are on just about every social media platform there is. Go and like and join and subscribe so that you can be notified when we go live. So today, my guest host is Haley Gray. Please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Haley Gray. I'm the founder of the Women's Entrepreneur Network. I'm a mom of 4 kids. My oldest has a traumatic brain injury, and we have had a ton of experience with the mental health system since that happened. We've been in and out of the hospital 19 times in 6 years. And I've gotten to see the good, the bad, the ugly, and all the things that go with having a loved one in the mental health system.
19 times, that's a lot.
19. Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. And I couldn't imagine that. I don't have, we have mental health issues. Obviously, everybody does. There's a range of, mild to severe to life-changing or life-threatening. Absolutely. And we're on the lower end of that spectrum. So it's not, we haven't had as many struggles as somebody in your position would. So definitely I'd love to highlight these topics and help people understand that they're not alone, and how to take care of themselves. So first off, let's start talking about the mental health system. I'll share my story on one of my children. So each of my children have had their own issues, where at one point or another, I've had to actively look into getting them help, therapy, counseling, what have you. And each time it was a fight, or it was a struggle, or it was, oh, we don't have those resources at the school, or, it takes 6 months to 2 years to get in to see anybody for the referral. And I'm like, it was one thing after another with us, right? Eventually everything did work out. Everything, got resolved, or it was figured out outside of the mental health system. But I know for one of my children, they go through, one of my daughters is diabetic, type 1 diabetic, and she has had a lot of mental health struggles when it comes to being, diagnosed at 9 with diabetes. And so there's a lot of issues we face. Now, we took her to the diabetic clinic located where we are, and they ended up, we were seeing, what's the word I'm looking for? Residents. We kept seeing residents. And so every 6 months, every 3 months, the residents were changing. And I went in and I talked to the head psychiatrist there. And I said, listen, I said, 1, I'm not getting any phone callbacks. 2, my daughter's not seeing anybody consistent. And 3, you've made no effort to make it as though anybody cares what my daughter's going through. Switching people every 6 months with a 12-year-old, that's not, you know what I mean? I'm an adult and I want the same person consistently. I don't want different people every 6 months that I'm going to have to retell all of these things to.
Yeah. Where are you located?
So I'm in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada.
Okay.
My oldest child was talking suicide when he was younger. And the school didn't have anything, literally nothing. You couldn't get a referral. You had to go to the doctor. We ended up moving provinces at that point, but it was horrendous on our end. But again, for me, it was a struggle, but at the same time, it wasn't, because it was mild. It was things that we got through, we dealt with, we figured it out. But tell us a little bit more about your story. Like what?
So we're in North Carolina in the United
Yeah.
States. And the mental health system is totally different here. So one of the things that we run into, because our medical system is quite different, is that, if you have insurance, you may be able to get into a provider. However, when it comes to mental health, most mental health providers don't fully take insurance, or they don't take insurance at all. So you have to file on your own. You have to pay out of pocket, which at $100 a visit or more can get to be really bad. And that's if you can even find a qualified professional to work with. So when we talk about, the more mild end of the spectrum, we've all had, visits with therapists and whatnot. Our schools absolutely don't provide any of those services, period, end of story. And good luck, even if you have money, finding a qualified provider. That's not even getting into when you're dealing with someone who has severe persistent mental illness and the way that our insurance system works here. Because if you have a kid who's actively suicidal with a plan, or who attempts suicide, or who is actively homicidal, psychotic, psychosis, any of those things, you get put into the hospital here, and we have what is called a Baker Act, and they can be held for 72 hours involuntarily. Well, the insurance company, if you happen to have insurance, is quickly pushing to get them discharged as quickly as possible. So they may be allowed to stay 1 to 2 weeks. They're not fully stable. They get discharged, and they're not stable. There's no follow-ups. Good luck finding a provider, back to that first problem. And there are no group sessions. If you have severe persistent mental illness, they get discharged without a follow-up plan. There is no care on the outside of the hospital, unless you manage to get into a group home, which is a whole other category of stuff. And then, you lather, rinse, repeat this. So what happens for most people here in the United States who have severe persistent mental illness is that they're either imprisoned, because that's how we manage mental health in our country. 90% of people are either imprisoned or homeless, drug addicted. The women are trafficked and drug addicted. And there's a very small minority of people who manage to obtain a spot or funding to be put into, and have access to a group home or other types of care. If you're in the hospital, it's very short-term stays. It's not long-term stays. And it's not until the patient is really stable. It's, until the insurance decides to kick you out, unless you're in the state psychiatric hospital, which is for the worst of the worst of the worst in terms of mental health. So it can be really, really challenging just to find a bed. We've had 2 and 3 weeks at a time in the emergency room. Sitting in the emergency room 2 or 3 weeks at a time, waiting for a bed in a psychiatric unit anywhere. And then we get put into a unit where they have absolutely zero experience with TBIs. They have no experience with psychosis. They have no experience with schizophrenia. They don't have experience with these things because all they're used to is, your simple suicide risk. So it's really challenging, to say the least. And I will say that, our mental health providers here do recognize it as a problem, but there's really no systems in place to help really deal with this.
Yeah, there's no plan for change.
Mm-mm.
That's horrible. And I'm not going to say that doesn't happen here, because it does. I think that happens all over the world in some form, shape, or another. Maybe not as severely, maybe not as, but yeah, like it's the amount of people that I've met who have been homeless and struggle with mental health issues here is even staggering, right? And so I can just imagine the States and how that looks. And in Canada, healthcare is different, right? Because you're not, a lot of it is covered by your province or by the country itself. A lot of your medical health expenses are covered if your employer has benefits or if your business has benefits, but not everything is covered, and it's a limit. You have limits on everything. So it's not, definitely not easy anywhere in the world. So what do you think? And like I said, everybody, if you're watching or if you catch the replay, hop on and answer this question too. What do you think the biggest struggle as either somebody with mental health issues or somebody like a caregiver or a family member of somebody with mental health issues? What do you think the biggest struggle is with the mental health system?
I think that the biggest struggle is truly, being heard. Having the place and the time to heal, being heard, having your situation addressed appropriately and seriously is really hard. I also find that once doctors hear that somebody has a mental health diagnosis, they stop with that. And
that's
like
that focal point.
And it becomes the only focal point. It's like telling a patient, oh, you're obese. Everything else stems from the fact that you're obese.
I've had that said to me multiple times.
I've had that too, right?
Yeah.
And, it's a cop-out because it's an easy thing to glom onto. It's easy to blame the patient for their own situation. Oh, well, you have this diagnosis. Everything else must be that. So we're not going to address any of your other health issues, and we're not going to listen to you, and we're not going to address you, and we're not going to treat you as if you are a fully feeling, thinking human being. You instead become an inanimate object who doesn't have rights or feelings. So it's really tricky to deal with the mental health system in a lot of ways here, and mental health professionals. And I will say, to your point about being seen by residents, I mean, I live in an area where we have two enormous teaching hospitals, UNC and Duke. And we've done our time at both of them. And obviously we get lots of residents that get really, really excited over the case, and they want to call me and they want to talk to me for 3 hours about my daughter's case. Never mind that they're not going to actually do anything and can't actually do anything that's going to improve her case, and they can't be bothered to read the notes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of the things that I've had to deal with, all of these hospitalizations, is dealing with doctors who think that they are, hot shots, hot stuff. They're going to just change up her medications willy-nilly, or they're going to throw in a new medication, or they're going to do whatever, when it's not really going to have the effect that they're hoping for. And, unfortunately, a lot of times she comes out of the hospital with way more medications than she went in with, and it's not necessarily helping her situation at all.
Yeah.
Do
you think that mental health is an unseen illness, right? It's an unseen illness.
Absolutely.
You go into an emergency room. Let's use this as an analogy, right? You go into emergency room, and you've got 6-inch gash on your leg, right? You go in, because the doctors can see that it's an emergency, because they can see the depth of the pain, the depth of the injury itself, the depth of the potential of that injury. It's, oh my goodness, we got to get you into surgery right now. Here's the medication. We're going to stitch you up. We're going to get you all better. And the focal point is put so quickly on what you're doing, or what they can do for you, because they see it, right? And it's that seeing is believing. It's right there, right? So with mental health, you have it one of two ways. It's either you're diagnosed, and that stigma of being diagnosed with that specific mental health issue, no matter what it is with you for the rest of your life. That it's always going to be assumed that you have it. It's always going to be assumed that any symptoms or any issues that you face, is because of that. Or they look at it and don't believe that you have it, or don't believe that it's severe, or don't believe that it's needs to be treated, or the way to be treated. I mental health now, for me, I think my biggest pet peeve with mental health is that immediately it's drugged. And I'm not saying that some people don't need it. Absolutely. There are times where medication and pharmaceuticals are needed to treat certain mental health issues.
But that's true of our entire medical system.
Yeah.
I have a daughter who has severe autoimmune issues.
Yeah.
It's not seen, it's not understood. What do you mean you're in this much pain? What do you mean you're vomiting blood? What do you mean you're having all these other issues?
Yeah.
I don't see it because you look perfectly healthy. You do gymnastics, you do all these other things. Of course, you're totally healthy. But it's not seen and it's not understood. And it's not an easy, like a cancer diagnosis or a broken leg or here's something we can easily fix, because it's not well understood. And, like mental health, it's we're going to throw more pills at it and hope that we maybe get lucky and something actually works. Yeah. But we don't really know what we're doing.
So being an identity coach, and I know you're a coach too, I think we have similar but different paths. But with me being an identity coach, I've come to the realization or the knowledge that anxiety, depression, there's different forms of depression, but anxiety, depression, unhappiness, panic attacks, some forms of PTSD can be, I want to say changed or treated. They can be worked through and processed without medication, without hospitalization, but by understanding the mental aspect behind it, right? The mindset behind it, the what it says about our identity behind that mental illness, right? There are medical, like I always say, the difference between emotional and clinical depression is one is physical, right? One is created by an imbalance or created by missing or improper, I can't remember what they're called right now, functions in your brain, right? Where emotional is created by something that's created an unhappiness, and that unhappiness festers and festers and festers until it turns into a depression, and then it turns into abuse of alcohol, drugs, sex, negative habits, right? And then it goes further down to depression and anxiety, panic, and last but not least, suicide, right? Some of those can be treated without medication, without needing to, go through the mental health system in a different respect.
Well, and I think that for every person who has mental health issues, regardless of whether medication is an appropriate choice or not, I think that you do have to work your way through the non-medication alternatives, the DBTs, the CBTs, the whatever is appropriate in your case, the coaching, the therapy, etc. And really digging deep into that and understand what's going on, because medication is not a cure. It's only going to address, at most, if you're lucky, a percentage of the symptoms. It's never, when you're dealing with a chronic illness like that, it's not ever going to make you feel 1,000% better. You still have to do the work. And I mean, that's part of the challenge here, is that there's a tendency to want to throw a pill at it. My dad was definitely one of those people who, as a senior, was always looking for that next magic pill that was going to control all of his pain. He didn't want to do the exercise. He didn't want to do the physical therapy. He didn't want to do all the other things, same thing, right? That you have to do in order to take care of yourself, the diet, the nutrition, the monitoring your vitamin levels and making sure that you are actually getting adequate nutrition, because that can tip you into depression. And doing all the things is hugely important, but it's really easy to just say, hey, I'll just take a pill. And I know that in my parents' generation, it was very much I'm going to just take a pill for that. And to some extent, doctors are kind of taught that, you either do surgery and you fix it, or you throw a medication at it and you fix it. And if you don't know how to do that, well, then you're SOL.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even my generation, I'm 38, and even my generation, you walk, I grew up on diet pills, and right, like, oh, here's the next diet craze. Take this pill and you'll shed all the pounds, right? And it's just morphed over the last like 15 years on, oh, take this diet pill or do this diet. If I did the keto diet, it would kill me. If I did intermittent fasting, it would probably kill me, because I can't, those aren't physically sustainable for my body, for my, digestion and the way I need to eat. I'm hypoglycemic. And if I don't have carbs every 5 hours, I'm like lying in bed vomiting because I'm so ill, just from being hypoglycemic, right? And it's ridiculous. Oh, do this, or oh, do that. I had a doctor tell my daughter right before she was diagnosed with diabetes, to put her on the keto diet. And she had already lost 30 pounds in a month, and was just sick, absolutely sick. But that was his go-to thing, right?
Well, so, I mean, I will say, like, when I had my weight loss surgery, I had a lot of people approaching me and say, hey, you need to try my diet. We work with lots of weight loss patients. And I'm like, that's great. Have you ever worked with a weight loss patient that's had the particular procedure I had? Oh, they're all the same. Oh, no, they're not. And if I follow your nutrition plan, and I'm not going to call out any large, well-known MLMs here, it will kill me.
Yeah. Literally. Yep.
Just the lack of protein alone would be fatal.
Yep. And that's the thing. That's the same with mental health, though. Not all mental health programs and not all mental health paths are going to magically fix. So you're right. You do have to do it, right? You have to do the physical work. You have to do the mental work. You have to do the energetic work and the nutritional work, which hands into the physical, right? But you've got physical, mental, energetic, all of this, right? You can even go the spiritual route, right? And figure out different ways of, one, coping with the symptoms, two, changing the symptoms. I know for me, myself, and my clients, it's changing the entire thought process so that those symptoms are no longer there, right? I've had half of my clients all of my clients in my coaching practice have seen counselors. Now, I love counselors. I love therapy. I think that they're valuable when they're needed. Absolutely. But I've had majority of my clients who've seen counselors, and they're like, I go to counseling, and counseling for me is great, but I've been in it for this long and nothing's changed. I know how to get myself out of the symptoms as they're happening, but nothing's actually changing. So I've actually been told that what counselors do are like the surface level. They're like the surface level coping mechanisms, right? But then what I do is get underneath and be like, okay, what's the actual issue here that's causing all of these symptoms, right? And doesn't matter what profession you're in, it doesn't matter who you're seeing, that should be the number one focus in everyone. What's causing it, right? What's that one thing, or one thing that started a line of many other things that's actually causing these symptoms, right? For the traumatic brain injury, right? That would have been a cause, right? So then you learn how to work and try different things to help that cause. If you can't help that cause, then your only option would be to treat the symptoms. right? Or
Mhm.
mask the symptoms. And it's hard. It's absolutely,
Well, and with a severe enough TBI, there is no masking the symptoms, and there really is no treating the symptoms.
yeah,
It's learning to live with the symptoms and
yeah,
working your way through that. So it's a whole other degree of
yeah,
challenging, because medication doesn't work. I think that there's this delusion in the medical community that medication is going to work for everybody, and that there is a medication out there for every mental health patient. That's really not the case. It may be that the medications themselves alleviate a symptom or two, but they're really not terribly effective at managing symptoms, with a patient that's got a TBI. Unfortunately,
yeah,
they're just not.
yeah.
That's not
And
what they're designed to do.
it's sad how many people experience the runaround, all the drama, not the drama, I want to say ridicule, right? Like that stereotypical, oh, I don't see it. It's just not there. So let's talk about you. I know that we talked during the interview about the focus. So 90% of the time, the focus in mental health is the patient, right? It's the person who's suffering or struggling with that mental health issue, right? But what about the caregivers?
I think that the rest of the family is basically up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I would say that there is almost no understanding unless, the relatives, cry out and say, hey, this is a problem for me. Two, I'm having a hard time coping with this. There's really no holistic approach to the entire family, period. We're just expected to suck it up. Me as legal guardian, it's almost overwhelming some days, because yes, I do get to spend 10 to 20 hours a week, even now, managing my daughter's care, with nonstop, incessant messages, not just from her, but from caregivers, and us trying to figure out, well, who dropped which ball, and who did this, and who did that, and who didn't do the other, and who didn't do their job. And you're right, there is no regard for, okay, yeah, you as mom, how are you as mom doing? Or how are the other kids doing? They're just expected to suck it up. And I know that my youngest was definitely targeted at his very high-end private school for being weird, just at that time where we were going through the worst of my daughter's mental health issues. And I do have to say, I lost friends. I had people disappear into the woodwork. And, I started to learn very much who my friends really were as we were going through this.
Do you think the people that you lost didn't know how to help? And I think
it triggers them.
Yeah.
And
you think about it when you have a family or somebody with mental health issues, right? For most people, not most people, but a good majority of people, you don't know how to talk to them. You don't know how to engage with them. You don't know how to help them or not help them, or it's,
I've heard this with friends who have, a diagnosis of cancer in the family. Some people step up and others just disappear. Yeah. I will say that my church's entire, mission outreach for support was completely a joke. I didn't need meals. I needed mental health resources. I needed to know, find experienced social workers who were experienced in dealing with the system, and it's just, it's interesting because the resources and the lack thereof are just kind of stunning.
Yeah. You think natural disasters, so we've got a war going on right now. Natural disasters, right? I saw that there's a photo floating around Facebook today about train station in Poland, and the local mothers took strollers and lined them up at the train station for any parents who have children and don't have strollers or anything to carry them in. And for those people who are running away from war, right? And trying to save their lives, that's one thing that maybe they think I don't need a stroller. I don't need your items. I need somewhere to stay. I need food. I need money. I need the resources to take care of and feed my family. What is a stroller going to do, right? So for your church, maybe they didn't know to change. You know what I mean? Like,
I told them what I needed.
Night, right?
I told them exactly what I needed. Look, I need a social worker who's experienced in dealing with placements and navigating through the system. I'll happily pay for it. They didn't have any resources. None. Nobody. I had to go out and go find those people on my own.
Yeah.
They didn't have any idea. But hey, they could offer me dinner, which my kids weren't going to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, honestly, going through it over a period of years, the kids need stability. They need to know mom is cooking. They need to know, hey, here's what's going to be for dinner tonight, not just some like random, okay, here's what we've got.
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that. I'm just saying a lot of people try to help, but they help their way. I'm actually doing an episode
and I'm good with
too,
helping
right?
their way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did accept some of the meals and stuff, but it got to a point where I was like, hey, I don't need meals. I need social workers. I need somebody who has experience dealing with the mental health system. Yeah. I need somebody who has experience with group homes or who can connect me to somebody who has access to group homes. Yeah. And I met a couple of care managers who were delightful, but they only had experience, with seniors. They didn't have experience in this space at all. And I'm like, well, it's really hard for me to pay you if, you have absolutely zero expertise in this field.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard maneuvering and trying to find what you need, especially when not a lot of people have those connections or understand, right? Like you said, it's hard to find anybody qualified to help with your unique situation, right? And your specific situation. So to find somebody who's not in that situation to say, oh, I know this person, or oh, I know that person, it's going to be harder, right? So for any families, parents, caregivers, siblings, it's freaking hard. And trying to make time for yourself and trying to make sure that you're okay and that you think about it. And I know a lot of moms, of course, we all know a lot of moms. And I say this to moms and their response is shock and awe and arguments. And I'm not trying to change their minds, but at the same time, they get very defensive when I say this, is my number one priority. And I have kids, I have a husband, I have animals, I have 3 businesses plus the talk show. My number one priority is myself.
It has to be.
I will put myself ahead of my children, because if I'm not at my best, if I'm not taking care of they're not taking care of me. My husband's not taking care of me. My friends and family aren't taking care of me. My businesses aren't taking care of me. That's my responsibility to take care of me.
Well, so and if there's not a you, there won't be a family. There won't be a business. You won't be able to take care of your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing I think people lose sight of. And I did for a long time until I had a doctor look at me and said, hey, if you don't lose weight, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I see the comments. The only things keeping me going are my children. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do when your children are gone?
Right. No, you have to recenter and take care of your own mental health, your Put on your own oxygen mask first.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's,
And
yeah,
it's
I
hard
think
to do that because we think we're being selfish.
but we're not, right? And that's filling people's cups.
But I have to take care of my kids, you know,
Yep.
and I have to take care of my family, and it's my job. Yeah, well, your job is also to take care of yourself.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And I will fight that tooth and nail, and I will argue that point. That will never change in my eyes. And for anybody else, if that doesn't change, absolutely. But you, in the comments on the replay, tell me what your number one priority is. Whether you think it's you, your partner, your children, what's your number one priority? So you yourself, you've accomplished quite a bit while taking care of yourself, taking care of your children. You know, you're married, you have a lot going on. What have you accomplished through all of this? Because you've put yourself first and accomplished.
Well, I've lost 160 pounds.
Very nice.
I've gotten a lot healthier. It's not just the weight, it's the being able to go out and go hiking for 2 or 3 miles with my husband. You know, personally, my relationships have gotten a lot better. You know, I've grown my business. I've 10x'd it in this amount of time. More than 10x. While dealing with a kid bopping in and out of the hospital, you know, like a bunch of girls on a trampoline.
Yeah.
And, you know, dealing with all the crazy doctors and maintaining my own sanity.
What is your business?
So I have a Facebook group with 76,000 members. It's called Women's Entrepreneur Network. And it's a community for primarily women and a few smart men, business owners. And my other business is Intuitive Biz Solutions, where we're doing digital marketing and marketing solutions for small businesses. So
that's a lot to keep up with.
It is.
Yeah. And I wanted to highlight that. I don't normally, on the show, we don't normally promote or highlight too much, but I wanted to do that because what you've accomplished and how detail oriented and time consuming your business is, you found success while doing all of it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that came down to finding who you are, making sure that you're taken care of, doing, you know, fighting for your family's needs and balance. Whether that balance is, you know, going for a 2-hour hike and then spending a couple hours focusing on what the kids need and, you know, putting it all together in a routine or a way that works for you with the ability to screw up the routine in the middle of it.
Right. Well, and learning a lot about killer time management skills. Mm-hmm. One of the things I have become hyper focused on, and I continue to grind on, is time management skills. I like my sleep. I like my baths. I like my time to eat with my family. I like my me time. So the only way to manage all this other stuff is to get really, really clear on what is the fewest steps I can take in order to get where I'm trying to go with this thing.
Yeah.
Or it's going to just all blow up. I've worked with people who have been tremendously inefficient with their time. And, you know, things take 3 or 4 touches. One of the best expressions I've heard, and I really hear this in my head, is kill the monkey. Like, get it done on the first try, if you can. You know, because that thing grows up to be a silverback and it's chasing you around and doing stuff. And it grows up to become this massive amount of time. Whereas if you can just get it done on the first try, it becomes a thing. So it's become a real game for me, not game, but like just driver for me, is how do I get better at managing my time and spending my time how I choose to spend it so that I can be more productive And when I'm in my desk, I'm actually getting things done. And when I'm not in my desk, I'm actually able to enjoy that time too.
Yeah. Do you think, I had a question, do you think that having a family unit that has somebody in it with mental health issues, do you think that there's a really great need? I'm actually, it's going to be a rhetorical question because the answer is going to be yes. But with that, do you think that everybody in the family as a cohesive unit needs that one-on-one time, needs that time to be heard, that time to be seen, that time to be acknowledged, and have their needs met and appreciated, right? I know that you said that you have not just one child, you have multiple children. And with that with those multiple children, you can face, this one child, the one who has the TBI and the heavy mental health issues, gets a lot of that attention, right? Because what they need is so convoluted and so big that everybody else can kind of feel down the wayside, right? So you've got to focus on yourself, making sure that everybody, including your partner, including yourself, your children, each get that time to feel like they're acknowledged. And then your business, and then your time. It's a lot of work, and you're not alone. What do you suggest for parents or families? What is the one thing you suggest more than anything? Should they join groups? Should they join communities? Find other people who are experiencing the same things, building their tribe really well, support networks?
I think you have to find what works for you, because what works for me isn't necessarily what's going to work for somebody else. Yeah. I will say that I actually find it quite depressing to be in groups sometimes with families who have severe persistent mental illness and stuff, because you can get dragged down into that. You really can. I'm a fighter. I really am, not in a, like, I'm going to get in your face kind of a way, but, I'm going to shift down into low gear and I'm just going to mow right on through whatever I have to mow on through. But that's just my temperament. And I have a handful of really, really good friends. And I've made some amazing friends going through this process. Some parents that have gone through this, and other people who have no idea, and are just honestly, even now, 6 years later, really starting to understand the magnitude and the scope of what we're dealing with. So yeah, having that network is important. The time management is important. The self-care is important. The learning what you need and giving it to yourself is important, and being realistic with what I really need and then giving it to myself is critical. Whatever that is that a massage? Is that going and getting my nails done? Is that getting my hair done? Is that whatever? See, my nails aren't done because the acrylics peel off
my only.
So true story, acrylics and nail polish peel right off my fingers. So figuring out what your things are that make you feel amazing. Are you a bath person? Are you not a bath person? Are you this? Are you that? And then what do your children, if you have other children, truly need, because they may not all need the same thing. My other 3 kids definitely do not all need the same thing. My youngest has chosen to go to an all-boys military boarding school 4 hours from me, because that was what he needed and what he wanted. And that was part of, who his identity is. He gets time with mom. He gets time with dad. He gets time with the dog. I'm going to go pick him up on Thursday and bring him home for a Boy Scout hike this weekend. And I'll probably take the dog with me. So he'll get to snuggle with the dog in the back seat the whole way home. But it's understanding what each child values and meeting them where they're at, and not trying to get in their face or make them be somebody they're not.
Yeah. Well, I feel that for sure.
And they're also different.
It's,
I mean, no two kids are the same. I mean, my kids are polar opposites.
nobody's the same, right? And the only things we have that are the same is the need to make sure that we take care of ourselves, the need to live our own lives, and the need to do what we need to do, right? To get it done. And the only person who's going to make sure all of that is done is us. And if we don't teach our children how to do that, if by not doing it ourselves and saying, what do you need, right? To the fact that you knew that that's what your son needed, that was part of his identity, and that you were able to say, okay, I'm game for this, let's do it, is huge for a child.
Yeah. Well,
instead of trying to say you're not this person.
Right. And my two boys are my two youngest, and they're total polar opposites.
Yeah.
What they need, what they want, how they interact with people, it's totally different, and totally different than their sisters.
Yeah, mine too. My boys are older though. My boys are the oldest, the daughters are the youngest.
Yeah. You wouldn't even know sometimes. I mean, yes, you can look at my kids and tell that they're related, but you know, that's kind of one of the things that always amuses me, is how totally different my kids can be from one another. Yeah. And then now we've thrown foreign exchange students into the mix for fun too.
Very nice. Yeah. Lots going on. Very much so, lots going on. Well, what else do you think people need to know?
That it's okay to ask for help, demand help. And if you're not getting an answer, keep asking.
Yep. Fight,
you know, ask and ask and ask again, because unfortunately, you know, if one medication doesn't work, another might, or if one modality of healing doesn't work, another probably will. You have to keep working your way through it. I mean, and if you have a kid who's really struggling, be there for them and be supportive and non-judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, is their life is completely different than yours. Their thoughts and the way that they cope and the way that they acknowledge and just live through the experiences they're going through are nothing like yours, right? We can't put our own experiences on our children and say, this is how I did it, this is how you have to do it, or, you know, it's not.
Well, and even two people going through the same experience are going to experience that situation totally differently. I mean, I will say my husband and I going through the same experience with our daughter, or, you know, my younger daughter going through the same experience with her older sister, and having to be the one who dropped her sister off at the hospital once or twice to have her admitted because I was over here dealing with another kid. You know, she experienced that totally differently than I did. And it's important to acknowledge that situation. And, you know, and my oldest daughter, her experience of the whole thing is totally different, you know, and honoring that is important.
So first things first, for anybody watching or catching the replay, number one, make sure you are taking care of yourself. First and foremost, take care of you. Secondly, make sure that you are doing everything in your power to get your children the help that they need in the way that they need, and, you know, for them, not for you, but for them, because that is so important. When you have somebody in the house who is experiencing mental health issues, the whole family, that impacts the whole family. And everybody is going to need something different to cope, to move forward, to stay strong, to build within themselves. And making sure that everybody gets that equal opportunity is vital in a family, in a cohesive family. So definitely pay attention to that. I don't really have anything else to really put on that topic.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
If I had tried to make my older son go to therapy, he they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, it's so dependent on the person, meeting them where they're at. So important.
All right. Well, thank you, Haley, for joining me.
Thank you
I
for
really
having
enjoyed this
me.
episode,
This is
and I
fun.
think that more people need to know that they're not alone, and how to handle life's ups and downs, even when they're this important.
Yeah.
I don't want to say severe, but important.
This is the big stuff, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, anybody watching, I want to say thank you for watching the show, whether you're catching the replay or the live. I'm always open for, sorry, I'm going to redo that. I don't edit these, so this will be a nice little flop for the episode. I'm always open to finding more guest co-hosts for anybody who's looking for a featured topic, and anybody who's interested in sponsoring an episode, the website, or a social media platform. Take a look at the website. It is now new and improved. Everything is nicely aligned. www.justalivetv.com. Please go and like us on all social media platforms, whichever one you are more frequently on, and we will follow you back, because that's what we do. So lots of love, Just a Family. If you need anything, please reach out to either myself or Haley. Haley's information will be on every episode or every post involving this show. So lots of love, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much, Haley. Bye.